Hey, this is not an episode of Becoming a Techno Wizard, but I think I'm very excited for this. All right, so I'm going to be reacting to Jason Calacanis, really great angel investor. He's invested in a ton of really successful companies. He has a really great podcast called This Week in Startups, and I've been listening to him for the past couple of years, and I really am inspired and motivated by what he does. However, I do think he oftentimes says things that don't really I want to say I'm I said in my last video, so I'm gonna say here too. He kind of puts his foot in his mouth. Okay, so I want to do a video where I am sharing my um, reactions to it, to what he's saying, and trying to uh, say what I would say to him if I knew him in real life. So if I knew Jason, if we were cool or something, if I was some successful entrepreneur and I was on his podcast or whatever, this is the type of things that I would say to him. And I think it's interesting to put this here, to say this now, because even though I am not an entrepreneur yet, um, I want to be able to look at my growth. And I want to also be able to show that people who are not yet entrepreneurs, who are just trying to learn and grow and stuff like that, can still have great feedback and critique and you know can say good things, can say important things and stuff like that. So my hope is that maybe one day Jason does see this and he does agree with what I'm saying, or at least understands where I'm coming from, and can empower his own thinking, based on what I'm saying here. And likewise, me working through kind of thinking about how I would talk to somebody like Jason enables me to understand how other people think and be able to kind of debate, and craft an argument against different people in a respectful manner. Because we all have different ways of seeing the world, and it's important that are able to communicate these different ways of seeing the world. So yeah, without further ado, let's go. I'm going to share my screen to show you what I'm looking at. Here we go. So if this ever gets big, I doubt it will, but just so I know, so just so people know, I like to do kind of raw videos. I don't like to edit or anything like that, just because it makes me procrastinate. So this is going to go just like how you see it now. So here we go. This is on his channel. He does, he sometimes does features with different news groups and stuff like that, where he can share his ideas and perspectives on things. So there we go.
And this generation is completely soft. They are.
Oh, just to give the context of what he was saying. Sorry, y'all.
Is about what the future may hold. Let's check in with Jason Calacanis, angel investor and founder of Inside.com. Morning, Jason. Good to see you.
Good morning. I hope everybody's safe. Thanks for having me on the program.
Yeah. What do you think happens here?
Well, first off, obviously, we need to totally have our heads examined here in America, because we literally are talking about kombucha girl, and this generation is completely soft. They are a generation of snowflakes who care more about their follower counts than they do about, getting STEM degrees and building important companies and being entrepreneurs and capitalists. This is a lost generation here in America, and China is laughing at us, where we actually care more about our follower counts while they care about STEM degrees and engineering degrees and starting companies and candidly becoming a superpower. And we're sitting here on CNBC talking about kombucha girl.
All right, so this is why I had to do this video, because oh my gosh, what? Like, it is first of all, it is a very common trope and stereotype to kind of lambast on the younger generation, right? The younger generation is going to hell. They're stupid. They're, like he said, they're soft, right? But first of all, before you even get into that argument, you have to realize, you have to admit that it is not the fault of the younger generation for what they do, right, at the younger ages. For the simple fact that they are being raised by your generation. So if you're blaming kids for caring about certain things or not caring about certain things, you have to wonder why. What is their data set? What is their context? What is their environment, right? Their environment is people, um, parents who grew up in this in a time where things like capitalism failed them, right? There's a huge, he's going to talk about later, I'll go into it later, but on this specific topic, he talks about, the current generation being soft and whatnot. But it's like you're blaming a kid for, I don't know, not being good at sports when his parents never let him play sports. Because it's like, why are you blaming the kid? Like, why aren't you talking to your generation? Why aren't you talking about the people your age who constantly were helicopter parents, were, you know um these participation trophy parents and stuff like that, right? It's I hate the fact that people want to blame the younger kids, the youth, for things that their parents taught them to do or did not teach them to do, right? So that's your first mistake, Mr. Jason, sir. I definitely agree with you that there is a large problem with people focusing too much on these stats, right, of social media, of paying attention to your follower count and stuff like that, right? But I wouldn't blame the kids. Don't get me wrong, as a young person myself, and as young people, we can definitely learn to break out of this issue, this dependence on technology and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, people are. That's my second issue here, is that there's a huge kind of idea that young people are just around just trying to get their follower counts up, right? Um, and not really wanting to pay attention to the bigger world, or not wanting to do ambitious things and stuff like that. That just shows that you're not around very many youth, right? You're not around um, people who actually are trying to put themselves out in the world and make a difference. Because there's a huge push for people like me and my age group and younger, who really want to change the world for the better, right? Sorry for the lighting, but there are a lot of people like me, or even not like me, but just, generally in the younger generation, who are using social media to share their thoughts, right? To share their critique on the world, to share their ideas on how the world can be better, to try to bring happiness to other people, right? If you look at the biggest YouTube channels, right, a lot of them are built around this idea of trying to bring some happiness into the world, trying to bring some entertainment, trying to bring some, trying to bring people out of the constant run of anxiety, right? That is constant, that you are seeing on the things like this news. Like, look at this news channel, for example, right? I understand they're trying to show stocks and whatnot, but it's so busy. Like, it caters to that idea of pay attention to this, look at this, look at that, right? You're supposed to be focusing on the message here. You're supposed to be focusing on your interviewer, and yet this channel has all this crap on the screen. That's a perfect example of the problem of our society, and that we have created an environment where you're trying to um, get people hooked, right? Hooked into doing this or that or that or that, right? And you're wondering why people don't have a strong, a long attention span. It's because those muscles aren't being built. Those muscles are atrophied because have your generation, Mr. Calacanis, has created an environment where long attention spans are not welcome, are not valuable, are not seen as valuable, at least. And so the question is, if you're going to, call these younger generations soft and snowflakes, what do you call their parents? So, yeah. Now, I'm not going to stop there. I always like to talk about solutions and whatnot, stuff like that. So, but we'll get into that as we go through the video.
And how about your follower counts and how important that is? Give me a break.
Right.
They built a Tesla factory in under a year, Carl. It's ridiculous.
Microsoft might take some issue with our priorities being backwards, given what they've built. Would they be a good caretaker of this platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Microsoft can buy it. That's fine. Apple should not buy it. I saw Axios maybe was talking about Apple buying it. Apple has no idea how to do content moderation.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip some of this. I agree with this part. Like,
content and dealing with those issues. I'm not sure Apple has the DNA.
So for those that don't know, um, just to give a whole summarize on this whole thing right here, if you're kind of under a rock right now, TikTok has been in talks to being banned from the U.S. because it is a product of China, right? Is a huge. For those that don't know, TikTok is created by ByteDance, which is a Chinese company. Okay, and TikTok functions like the entire point of TikTok is to take in user data and create a stream, right? A feed that constantly gets people to just scroll. And not only is this in itself like a problem, but the fact is that the Chinese government, and this has been studied, like we have plenty of proof that shows that this app actually takes a huge amount of data, right? Like it actually spies on your phone, on your device. So there's actually a very coherent and reasonable response to ban TikTok from America, because China is not a good country. You know, if you didn't know, now you know. You know, they're over there, killing their own people and putting Muslims or other people into camps and stuff like that, right? Into what do you call those, concentration camps, basically, right? So they're a very problematic government, and not to say that America's innocent. There's a bunch of problems with America, but at least you still have some modicum of free speech, right? You're not gonna get killed for talking bad about the president, for instance, like you will in China. So uh, and this is a regular thing. Like in China, they banned Google. They banned these other products that we have in America, Yahoo and all this, going back from Yahoo rather, all the way up to all the way up to today, because they realize that you can't have another government's industry technology in your uh, as the main consumer interface for your people, right? Because those people are then going to be exposed to ideas from other places, and furthermore, it's a security um, um, problem, right? If Microsoft and Facebook and Google all had access to data coming out of China, then China wouldn't have the power anymore. They would not be able to control their people like they do now. And so the same problem goes the other way. So if apps like TikTok can take all of this user data, can see everything that people are doing on in America, then they have better capabilities to do things like those Russian ads that that a lot of people blamed on the reason why Trump was president and stuff like that. Now it's debatable whether that's 100% true, but it is true that Russia did put in these types of ads. It's not sure what the influence of those were, but it is true that that happened. And the same thing can happen with China, right? So yeah, definitely, I think TikTok should be banned. But I think it's even better that Microsoft is trying to take ownership of this. Is trying to buy it out and use it, and wall off the. Hopefully, they're trying to wall off the data there for their own uses and stuff like that. So, yeah.
To be able to do this, but our country has to take a really deep look and understand that China is absolutely going to demolish our country if we don't get our priorities straight. And that's really the bigger issue here, is the relationship with China. We're changing the end of movies in America just to make an incremental couple of bucks there. We're allowing them in our app store, and which obviously means that the CCP has complete access to that information. Any New York Times journalist who believes that they're not having that data is completely naive and lost their minds.
I'm not going to do a whole thing about this, but there's a lot of, because I did cyber I was an information security intern for just a little bit, just 6 months, but just that was enough to see that the U.S. has terrible cybersecurity. All right, I forgot what the website is, but there's a website that shows you how many attacks on cybersecurity infrastructure that there is every second, right? Almost every second, at least, by other countries, by foreign nations and foreign actors and stuff like that. And there is a lot. And it's kind of, they're not really able to track how successful those attacks are. But the fact is, there's a lot of attacks on U.S. infrastructure, and well, one can argue that a lot of them has worked, and many of us can point to all these times with data leaks and data security issues and stuff like that with big companies, Equifax and all that, so it's a big problem.
Of course, the Chinese government has every piece of information. Kong are being arrested. And when Daryl Morey, the greatest mind in basketball in our country, stands up for the people of Hong Kong, he gets admonished by other players and other owners in the NBA. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, I think that was absolutely ridiculous. The fact that sports people were like, "Oh, why are you talking about China or whatever?" Right? Like these people, China are like literally killing people, killing journalists, killing innocent people for no reason, right? Just to keep their power or whatever. Like this is you should not be over there, capping for China, man.
We need to stand for human rights, and we need to realize that if we don't win capitalism, and if we get soft, and this generation of snowflakes cares more about their follower counts than they actually care about building world-dominating companies, we are going to lose to a communist country that is going to have massive power over us. This is a very serious issue, and TikTok is but the tip of the spear.
Jason, we talk about it all the time. We talk about it all the time, but right now,
I'm sorry, I'm just mad, Carl. I'm just mad, Carl. I'm mad about the whole dialogue.
I'm mad too, Jason, because once again, it was your freaking generation that failed us. I grew up I grew up literally obsessed with inventing hover cars, and there are a lot of people out there like me who are ambitious people who dreamt of inventing this, that, and the other. And our parents were like, don't do that, right? Be a lawyer, be a doctor or whatever, don't have those good dreams, because they were jaded. They failed at whatever, so they think their kids are going to fail, and they taught their kids to not dream big, to go to college and take the safe path, so that and not take risks to invent anything. So, and even through all that, there is still a huge number of young people who are ambitious. There's still a huge number of young people who want to create this these whole new methods of running society, right? Who want to change the world and are doing things. There's a lot of young people out there who are doing amazing things. Now, granted, a lot of them are in entertainment. A lot of them are in media. They use YouTube, they use Instagram, they use even Twitch as a method, as a train out of that non-risky mindset and into a realm of being able to do more ambitious projects, because they were raised in the environment that didn't give a shit, that constantly tried to minimize their dreams and constantly said that, no, you shouldn't do that, right? So I'm not going to sit there and allow you to call people snowflakes or soft, because they were raised a certain way, right? If you really want to help people, then you can provide the resources, then you can show people that this stuff is possible, and without calling them names, because no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter snowflake or not. If you disrespect somebody, they're not going to want to listen to you. As this is a long known thing. This is not a recent generation. This is not about me, caring about feelings or whatnot. This is just common sense, right? It's logic. If you are disrespected, you're not going to want to listen to somebody who is disrespecting you, who's calling you names and this, that, and the other, right? I don't care what you call people like me or anything like that. It's just respect. Like, you have to respect that people came up a certain way, and in order for you to help them, in order for us to be a better society, we have to show people the way. We have to say, hey, you don't have to do this thing that your parents said you need to do. You don't have to do this, that, and the other. You can do this instead. Gary Vee is a great example of that. Like, Gary Vee, he doesn't sit there and call people snowflakes because they were raised a certain way. He does admit that people, especially younger people, this generation, have a lot of experience of thinking that failure is bad. He admits that a lot of people grew up with participation trophies, and like they didn't really have to compete in as hard of a way to get the number one prize or whatever. But he goes about it in a way that provides the honey, right? As he says, provides the honey rather than the vinegar. He talks about yeah, I know you're in pain, or I know you went through this, that, and the other, but you don't have to, put up with that. You can do this instead, you know? Um, so Jason, I think you're a great person, but you really need to learn how to talk to people, how to talk about people. Because you're not gonna accomplish as much as you can accomplish if you're out here talking about what's wrong, like just another, okay boomer, right? Just one of the old people just complaining about young people. It's not gonna get you anywhere, man. It's not gonna get you anywhere. And and a bigger reason why I want to do this, I know I'm talking a lot, but that's what my videos are about. Talk about attention span. But I wanted to do this video because I saw a tweet this morning. It was like, no, rather I saw an article where people were trying to slam dunk on Jason because he wanted to do the learning pods or whatever. I'm gonna talk about that later because this video gets into it. But the way the way that went about is a good example of why there needs to be better communication on all around. Like people on both sides can't just be assuming the worst about people as soon as you, like, without even knowing them, you just assume the worst. It's just not a healthy lifestyle. That's not a healthy habit. So we're gonna get into that later, but just wanted to put that out there.
Get it? As are a lot of people, but the pawn in play right now is TikTok. It's unclear to me whether or not you think an outright ban a la.
Yeah. Might skip this.
Elite law enforcement folks. I mean, that is what's at stake here. And I know that sounds crazy, but just do a couple Google searches about
I'm not going to go into all that, but yeah, for those who don't know, watch the video. They're basically talking about how TikTok is very dangerous because it can be a security risk for things like Facebook and I think it was Yahoo, stuff like that. They were during wartime in separate countries. The government would use those organizations' data to track down police, track down journalists, track down whatever, and kill them. Right. So the same problem can happen with TikTok. You can use it as manipulation, as to track people and mess with them and stuff like that, hack them, whatever. It's very dangerous to have this tool that can just track a bunch of your data. So yeah, let me skip through all this. Let me make sure he's not saying anything else here.
It's an existential crisis for humanity and democracy and freedom.
Jason, it's David Faber. I'm not often on this show, so I don't get to listen to you. But man, you're all over the place. I don't. I mean, by the way, Kevin Mayer, the CEO of TikTok, probably looking for a new job right now because either way, either he's getting shut down or he's getting bought by Microsoft. So that guy probably doesn't have a job. So I wouldn't worry too much about him. But let me just come back to you on the young people thing, calling them all snowflakes and the fact that they're all interested. I mean, have you noticed the protests that have been unprecedented around this country and the fact that they have been populated largely by people under the age of 30 who seem to want to actually change things? I don't exactly know where you're coming from there.
Absolutely fantastic that the anti-racism protests occurred. That is a good sign for this generation. But the weak spot right now is that we are not investing in building great companies. This generation does not believe in capitalism. They believe in socialism. And
so that's my problem right here. That's one of my biggest problems with Jason, is that he has this very skewed idea of why people don't like capitalism or want socialism and stuff like that, right? I don't think this is the real reason I wanted to make this video. I don't care what you call people, not that much. I think it's still a matter of respect. But I think you need to understand, Mr. Calacanis, Jason, sir, that let me get the good lighting so you can see my face here. The fact that a lot of young people do not like capitalism is not the fault, once again, of the young people. It's not like these people are out here like, oh, I hate my access to running water. I hate that I have Wi-Fi and stuff like that. It's not like it's the problem here is just like with any product, right? If you created a product that ended up messing people's lives up, right, or creating vast amounts of inequalities, or where I want to say more than 50% of the population of that service is not having a good experience, then that's a failed product. That's not a good product. All right, look at Facebook. Facebook's a perfect example of this. Like, it was created to what? Connect the world's people, like connect people together, whatever their mission statement is. And yet you yourself was like, fuck Facebook, right? Like, somebody needs to, make a new Facebook and run them out of business, right? Because they have a whole bunch of really bad practices. They have a whole bunch of really bad uses of data, uses of advertisements, they have these isolated communities where people don't really communicate. They're just in echo chambers and stuff like that, right? There's a big host of problems with Facebook, and the same issue is with capitalism. Um, Capitalism has failed a lot of people. All right, don't get me wrong. The bigger structure of capitalism has provided us a lot of positive things and a lot of really strong infrastructure. However, you can perfectly see in the last couple of decades, capitalism in America has not created the quality of life that we thought we were going to get from it, that we thought we were going to be able to create from it. And when you look at other societies that do use highly socialist resources, they have a better quality of life. You can say, oh, they don't have as much innovation, but really that's a matter of time. It's a matter of time and people. A lot of those countries are smaller than America. A lot of those countries have not been as big as America has been for as long a period of time. They have only recently become, really great countries to live in. And so I think I remember you did a podcast with DHH from Basecamp, I believe it was. And he talked a lot about, the fact that there's a lot of socialist ideas, which you agreed upon at the time, that would make America really great. Having a lower social net so that people can actually take risks, right? The reason I don't start a startup is because I cannot take that risk. I've already taken a lot of risk in my day. I didn't go to college. I went to intern a lot of companies. I worked for free, at a startup, and I've taken risks. It's not been good. I've been, like, my family been almost homeless. Not literally on the street, but we lost our home. Got evicted, had to live in our cousin's place, like all 8 of us in one room or whatever. It's not good, right? And if I had, maybe if I had taken a traditional path, I would have, maybe been able to get like a regular career, regular, salary job and stuff like that. So that's why right now, even though I still want to start my company, I'm not going to do that yet because I just can't take that risk, right? So when you look at the rates, the data of entrepreneurship, there has been less and less people who are becoming entrepreneurs, who are starting these companies, because they cannot take those risks, because there is no social net. Because if they fail, and 80-90% of companies fail, which Mr. Jason, so they know that if they fail, they'd be shit out of luck. They'd be homeless, they'd be without food, and America doesn't care about homeless people. We see this all the time in the Bay Area and stuff like that. So I don't understand why people do not see that capitalism as it is now is a failed product. And when people look around, they see socialism is working very well for, like, Scandinavian countries. These people have a great quality of life. They have great health care. So you have to wonder, why are people keep trying to talk about, like, capitalism as if it's the best thing in the world? It's great. It is absolutely great. But there's a lot of issues that needs to be fixed. Now, personally, I would love to create a new system. I would love to create a new version of capitalism. I think it was Andrew Yang that said human-centered capitalism, all right? Like human-centered design, where you create capitalism that centers around people's actual needs instead of tracking things like gross, like GDP. You're tracking things like people's fulfillment, people's quality of life, stuff like that. Because what we measure, we improve. What we measure, we change. What we measure, we give value to. So that's why there's a whole bunch of people, a lot of women, for instance, who are stuck home, watching their kids and stuff like that, which is a full-time job. And people are realizing that now, right? People are realizing that, hey, watching my kids it's a hard job. But there's a lot of women that have been doing that job for a long time, and they get nothing for it, right? We don't have a society. We don't have a capitalist processes and systems in place to make sure that these people are still living good lives. And it doesn't matter how successful capitalism is at creating innovation. If that innovation trickles down in a way that does not help 50% of people still have a good quality of life, then what's the point? What is the success? Now, I'm not saying that we should abandon capitalism and go full communism and stuff like that. It's ridiculous, but we do need to consider how to rethink, a lot of these ideals of what we think capitalism can be. I think that we can improve on the functions of capitalism. We can improve on the incentives, what we incentivize and stuff like that. So there's a lot of improvement we need to do, and I think you need to think twice about that before just saying, "Oh, people don't care about capitalism. Oh, they want to be socialist and whatnot." You have to realize where people are coming from. If you do not realize that, you miss opportunities. You miss opportunities. You could be the one that is showing people a better form of capitalism. You could be the one with all your companies that you have invested in that show people, hey, invest in this. Hey, check this business out. Hey, this is how you start a successful business. This, that, and the other, right? Instead of you're just constantly, disrespecting people, quite honestly. And so it makes it difficult for a lot of people to listen to what you have to say. So, let's continue.
We're up against a competitor. We're up against a competitor who believes in capitalism combined with communism. And by the way,
It's funny that
is
people don't
going
realize
to
that.
roll over our version of capitalism. It's going to roll over our version of capitalism if we're not careful. And I think that we have to take it more seriously, and we have to really think about what is our relationship going to be, because if we don't put human rights at the start of every business discussion with
Exactly,
China,
man.
then humanity.
See, this is my thing, Jason. If you're over here talking about putting human rights in the beginning, with China, why aren't you talking about that with your companies? Or maybe you are. Maybe you are. I listen to a ton of your podcasts. It's not like you're against human rights or anything like that. But I don't think you admit the fact that companies who put human rights first, are kind of rare. Um, there are a lot of companies that thinking about revenue from the perspective of, how do we, like Facebook, how do we optimize people's clicking on this ad? How do we optimize, how many ads people can swallow, how many ads can we share, you know what I'm trying to say here, ram down people's throats. So, and I do admit, though, that you have a lot of companies on your podcast and your investment portfolio that is actually trying to do really good things for the world. So I do give you that. But I do think that you can be more of a light for people, for what positive human-centered capitalism can look like. Just like you said right then, put human activism, put human rights, in front of business choices. When you're thinking about how to maximize your revenue, ask them how they're measuring the quality of life of their customers, how they're measuring the fulfillment ratio of their customers, how they're measuring what their customers can actually do with their product. Does this empower them to do more? I know you probably talk about that in some way, but I would love to see you push more of that. I would love to see you getting on these news shows and talking about, hey, we can make sure we can invest in more companies that are human focused. I would love to see that.
Is going to flip, and we're right on the border of more people in this world living under authoritarian control than in democracy. Everything in this
That's
world
definitely
is
scary.
going up and to the right in a great way in terms of life expectancy and poverty going down. The one thing that's stalled is people living in democracies. And that is the existential price for the second half of our lifetime.
Even with the current state of our democracy, and even with this anti-immigrant fervor that this administration has had, this is still the place that you probably want to come to try to start a business. It's still probably the place you want to come to try to get educated if you can get in.
Not anymore.
Exactly.
That problem
no,
is
but you're going to Canada,
exactly.
or you're staying in China, or you're staying in India, because we have decided that our immigration policy is not going to be based upon how
merit
likely you are to create the next Tesla and SpaceX or become the CEO of Microsoft or Google. We're basing it on, I don't know what, some political.
Racist people, racist people over there talking about, oh, don't come in my country. You know, they're taking our jobs. These are criminals, right? No, if you look at the stats, people, and Jason is right on this. If you look at the stats, you know, a lot of the most successful companies, the companies that are making the most jobs, you know, for us to work at, you know, they're being founded or are led by immigrants. You know, Google is led by Indian or Pakistani, I don't know, but they're, you know, immigrants. They weren't born here, right? Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Microsoft, a lot of these other big companies, and even in a lot of smaller companies, you know, get me wrong, you know, a lot of smaller companies, mom and pop shops, everything, all of these are created by immigrants who come here and make a business. All right. And before this is going to be a tangential, you know, thing, but I do have to say, you know, if people are still watching this, the reason that there are more businesses created by immigrants instead of people that actually were born here is because they're coming from a different mindset, from a different environment, a different data set, right? From their environment, they came from knowing that, you know, they don't have access to this, that, and the other resource, right? So when they see America, they see it from the outside as a land of opportunity. And when you go there, you do your work, you know, you create a business, whatever. But people born here, we see things from a lot of people are jaded. You know, they were born here, their parents were born here, or maybe even their parents came or whatever, and they didn't achieve their dreams. They didn't, you know, get what they wanted to get. You know, the whole American dream thing has been shown to be less and less likely, right? Upper social mobility has been less and less possible. The middle class has shrunk. This is data. We know this to be true. And so the people born here are jaded. You know, they grow up with their dreams being dashed upon. You know, so it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery as to why people born here are less likely to start businesses. People coming in are more hopeful. They come in with hope. They come in with faith. They come in with, you know, wanting to do something different. But people born here are not. So before you go out and say, oh, you know, nobody wants to start a business, you know, you have to look at the causes. There's a cause and effect for everything. You know, if the cause is that people don't have access to resources while they're here, you know, if the cause is, you know, not having health care, not having good schooling, you know, not having a good voting system, right? Not having an increase in salaries and stuff like that over a span of decades, then of course the people here are going to be more jaded. The people here are going to be hopeless in a way. They're not going to be trying to start a company because they grew up where their parents tried to start a company and failed. And then when they failed, you know, they got poor. They were poor. You know, they grew up poor, struggling because their parents kept failing at making a business. So you have to realize the cause and effect here.
Whole partisan, you know, trying to go to people's most base instinct and fear that people are going to steal their jobs. We need to have a point-based system like Canada, like.
Yeah, he's saying good stuff here. Yeah. This video is probably super long already.
We have to, first of all, let these really intelligent people into the country, and we have. And there's a false equivalency going on here that, oh, the Chinese people are, you know, the Chinese government isn't that bad. This is an authoritarian country with a ruler for life.
I want to shift gears from the education crisis you're talking about and shift to a different.
Is for humanity that is probably more acute right now than even global warming.
Jason, Julia Borston here. I want to shift gears from the education crisis you're talking about and shift to a different kind of education crisis. I'm also here in California. My kids are also not going to be going back to a physical school in the fall. Brutal. And you drew a lot of criticism for your decision to tweet out that you're creating a micro school and you're trying to hire a teacher. Why did you decide to put this out on Twitter?
Well, because every every person out there is doing it. I mean, we're seeing every family discussing what are we going to do with our kids in September, because all due respect to Zoom, which, by the way, I think is handled their China issue very well in terms of getting their servers out of China and really addressing that issue seriously. So I do give them. We couldn't shut down bars and church.
But yeah, basically what he's saying in this part, which is originally what got me looking at what Jason was talking about today, is that, excuse me, as you see here, he's trying to create, a micro school in his backyard where you pay, good money to teachers and stuff like that, to keep the teachers employed, to make sure his kids are having good education, and creating a kind of movement, of a lot of people, doing this in their backyard, right? Which is a very good solution. However, a lot of people were lambasting him because they were talking about, oh, this is a perfect example of privilege, right? And they're going to go into it later in the video. Maybe I'll skip there. But the dude talks about, oh, what about all the people who can't afford that, right? And this is when people got mad. I do admit people are kind of silly for having this sort of, for getting mad at him for doing this, because everybody's doing this. Like literally everybody. If you have kids, you're thinking about how I'm going to homeschool them, right? Because if you're a reasonable person, if you're have a good set of data, you know that if you put them back into the school system as it is now, they might get COVID, right? And so a lot of people are sitting here thinking it, like my parents are thinking about, how are we going to homeschool our kids? We're trying to get them into the local online program, but it's a mess, right? It's a mess. They throw it up in a short amount of time, and it's very difficult to make sure everything is being worked out. So it makes perfect sense to do this. However, and Jason does admit this, is that he is privileged to the point where he can hire a quality teacher, to basically get what's essentially private school type of, education. Now, this is not a problem of privilege, though. This is a problem of the education system and the fact that for the last couple decades, we have maintained this weak, terrible, stupid education system to where people go into school for not the purpose of being creative, not the purpose of being not the purpose of being ambitious or entrepreneurial or even learning practical skills. It's because it's still based on the 100-year-old compulsory school system where people go in and learn how to sit at a desk and listen to instructions so that they can be good factory workers. That's literally the whole point of compulsory schooling. You can go look it up. It was invented. The person who invented it said the exact thing. I want people, this is a pipeline to get kids, from youth to factory. And it's still built around that, which is utterly idiotic. So this problem that we have is really against the education system. And I think a lot of people are misguided and blaming, people like Jason, for just trying to teach their kids, and I understand why. I understand why they're frustrated about it, because they feel powerless. If you have no money, if you can't afford to, pay a teacher, to come teach your kids, on their own or whatever, it's very frustrating when somebody, with a lot more money can do this. So of course people are going to be frustrated about it. However, Jason also said something later on. Let's get to that part.
Et cetera, for just 60 days and let our kids go back to school. And it looks like this is going to continue. So what I believe parents should do is they should create pods. And I didn't come up with this. Pandemic pods has been trending for a couple of months now. But basically hire somebody who is out of work for whatever amount of money, chop it up between 5, 6, 7 parents, and have a pod in your backyard or in some open air place if the weather allows for it, or in a smaller pod and get tested regularly, and then still have all those teachers be employed. And so this is a net new job that I'm creating. I'm trying to find somebody who is a teacher who can handle, call it 4 to 7 students in my backyard, because we're lucky enough to be in Northern California, which is basically 65 degrees every day. And we'll still do the distance learning with the teacher from our public school that we're in, but then we'll have somebody here so that mom and dad can go to work. And this is what we should be spending the stimulus money on. And by the way, I'm absolutely infuriated as well today in general with everything, because the fact that our government cannot pass The second goddamn stimulus bill.
Stupid,
Sorry
bro.
for my anger
Stupid.
right now. But how dare these people go on?
Jason.
For real.
How dare them go on vacation without solving this problem for parents and people?
For real, like the fact that people in our government could sit there and just go on vacation when we're in the middle of a crisis. They're over there. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, black, white, red, yellow, blue. If you're over here, trying to get, this specific politic in place, people are in need. They need this money. Like people like me, I'm working still, and I barely get paid anything because we have to work at reduced hours. I work at an arcade. So first of all, so I'm out in front of people coming in to play and stuff like that. Just for people to know, I work at a virtual reality arcade where it has natural social distancing. So it's only one person per, like, we call it a station. It's basically like a bay. It's a 10 by 8 foot room, right? You're in there by yourself with the headset on, just playing virtual reality. So people love to do this because, exposes them to new technology, exposes them to new experiences, blah, blah, blah. And they're naturally social distance. So there's very, very little risk. You have more risk at a grocery store than our arcade. I just want to put that out there. But the fact is that we still, a lot of people do come, but it's still reduced hours, right? So I barely get paid, right? It doesn't matter how much I work at this place, I'm barely going to get paid for anything. And they try the PPP for a little bit, but that, is for some reason is very limited. They thought the pandemic would have been gone by now, but it's still in place. So that PPP ran out, and now we're back to reduced wages. And they try to use partial unemployment, but that system is completely screwed up. So no telling when that will kick back or anything like that. So, and I'm one of the most fortunate. I can still work. I can still do things. A lot of people, they were laid off or fired or whatever, and they just out of luck. They can't find new jobs because a lot of people aren't hiring. Why would people hire in this climate? At least not to that extent for a lot of people. So a lot of people are really screwed. The unemployment rate is like 30 upwards, almost, I think 40%. 40%. Can you imagine that? Almost half of everybody, almost 1 out of 2 people is unemployed. And you're over here taking a break? Come on, man. Get out of here.
Who are suffering and getting some unemployment or some stimulus. Hire a person who's a retired educator and educate your kids if you can do that. And I think Microschools and pods, they might stick with us post-pandemic because I think it's not a bad model.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool model.
Well, Jason, I'm sure it seems easy to do in Northern California, but I don't need to tell you that the argument that it's the pinnacle of privilege to do this plays with a lot of people. I mean, this is not something most Americans can do.
So here's where it gets interesting.
I don't know if that's correct, Carl. I mean, if you hired a college student for $15, $20 an hour who's out of work right now, and we have 10, 20 million Americans available, and 6 families, chop up 5 hours at $15 an hour, $75, $10 a day, $20 a day each, I actually think it's available to almost all Americans. Now, if you're talking about hiring,
let's go back over that math. You said that real quick.
If you hired a college student for $15, $20 an hour who's out of work right now, and we have 10, 20 million Americans available, and 6 families, chop up 5 hours at $15 an hour, $75, $10 a day, $20 a day each, I actually.
I'm not sure what he means by that. I'm not good at math, so he said, because $20 a day is a lot for people who are not making a lot of money. $20 a day, that's what, $100 a week. It's $300 a month. If your stimulus check is like, maybe 800, around 600, I think. I don't know. It's been a while since I got that check. I think that was like $600 a week or bi-weekly. I think it was a week. I mean, it's decent, but you still got to pay bills. That's down the others. That's a pretty large bill for people who aren't making anything else but stimulus money. There are a lot of people who are making a little more than that, sure, but I got a question if it's that feasible. But at the same time, I do understand where he's coming from, and this is actually what got me really excited. It got me an idea of something I might do for a design sprint or something like that, right? So, but those that didn't catch it, right? This micropod idea is that essentially a bunch of parents, maybe your friend group or a neighborhood, whatever, will basically crowdfund, their kids' education. So you would go out and find some teachers, who will come to your neighborhood or whatever. Maybe you can even do it virtually, maybe. But let's say it's in person. You have a teacher, maybe 5 to 6 kids, each from different families. So that's 5 to 6 families paying that. Well, he said he started with a college student, and I think that's kind of smart, but kind of, oof, right, kind of edgy, because it's questionable with that college student can really teach them. That's a good extent. But let's say you have a good college student who can, and you pay them, $20 an hour is really good for a college student. That's amazing, right? It might be good for some teachers because a lot of teachers don't get paid very much either. But if you're paying that college student $20, let's do the math, right? Let's put all the calculator, because I'm not good at mental math here. Sorry, share my whole screen. Oh, here's a whiteboard. Because the rest of the video is basically around that. But let's write this down, okay? So you got you said paying teacher 20 an hour, 5 to 6 kids per pod. Where's the cursor? Okay, for let's say 5 to 6 hours per day. How much is that? $20 an hour for about 5 hours a day. It's about $100. Say $100 a day. Oops, that's a lot of money. First of all, which is about 500 a week. Now, it does seem like a lot of money, but if it's separated, with 5 to 6 families, that is 50. Yeah, 50 per family per week. Now, you might even be able to stretch this. So if you go up to like maybe 10 kids, I think 10 is still a decent number, you know, um, especially if those kids already know each other or something like that. Might be a decent number. So you can separate this. So maybe for people who are a little bit more strapped on cash, you can have a little bit of a bigger group. It doesn't have to be big. It shouldn't be big. It shouldn't be more than 10, 15. But with 10 kids, it's the same price, but a little bit easier. So it'll be like, $10 a week, which is very, very nice. Um, so I was thinking, what if you create an app around that idea? What if you created an app that, connected teachers with parents who wanted to create a pod and facilitated that payment model, to say, hey, pitch in, this amount that will pay the teacher, this amount this week or whatever. Maybe you can even turn to a subscription fee. I don't know about that, but maybe. But maybe you can keep it flexible. So maybe the teacher, has this amount of time to work this week, or it might not even be every day. Because I imagine this goes into some of my other ideas. But since I have you here, if you're still watching, you can have the problem with schooling is that it has this compulsory, it has this desk model where people sit down and you just pour knowledge into their head. But that's not what learning is. Learning, education, I think the literal definition or literal etymology is to pull out, right? To pull knowledge out of people's heads. So you actually are encouraging them to be curious about the world, for them to ask questions, and then enabling them to find those answers. So you guide them along certain pathways to find a way to get the answers. So it's kind of like the scientific method, right? To where in the scientific method, you do a certain amount of steps or certain types of steps in order for you to get to get objective knowledge. Same thing for design. For me as a UX designer, we have certain steps, a certain process that we go through. Sometimes it's different, different different type of process, but it's the same general idea, right? Where you use this set of tools to understand, what people think, what products, what problems to solve, and then what product to build, and you test it and iterate it. You can treat your learning experience, your education experience, very much the same. So instead of having a teacher have to be there for 5 hours a day, 5 times a week, maybe it can be something more simple, where the teacher is there for, like, maybe 2 hours, right? And during that time, they're answering any questions the students might have, making sure that they're understanding how to work through different problems, and then giving them projects. Project-based learning is one of the best learnings, as long as those projects are relevant and are impactful. So if you give people projects based on, not even give people projects, but kind of encourage them to find projects that they enjoy, find things that they enjoy doing, that they are interested in. At least they don't have to be passionate about it. At least they're a little bit interested in it. If they're interested in it, then you have them do a project around that thing, and they use that knowledge, that learning, to produce something. And in that method, you're creating a culture of people who treat learning as an experience, as a process, instead of what it is now, is just doing busy work and getting graded for it, right? So yeah, if you use a better education model, we can solve two birds with one stone here. We can both create better education for everybody, as well as value our teachers and value our students more. So we can make sure all these teachers are being paid and not just out of luck, out of work. And we can also make sure our kids are learning to a better extent for the future, and they're learning in a better method. And in that way, people will be more entrepreneurial by default, because their environment has now changed from treating failure as a bad grade, right? A bad grade that you get an F and you have to do it again, or you get an F and you fail and you just out of luck. All right, goes on your report card and your mom spanks you, whatever, because you got an F on something, right? Instead of all that bull crap, it becomes a system where you're judged based on the measurable impact, right? You're judged based on the effort you put into it. You're judged based on your merit. Oh, what an idea, right? Your merit to be able to go through a project and use a thinking process to solve a problem. So we can definitely solve multiple birds, with one stone with this model. And I might have to pursue this idea. There's a lot of other things I want to do, so I don't know. Hopefully, I'm doing this video another reason, because hopefully somebody else can take this idea and run with it. But I think it's a very interesting idea. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think there's a whole lot more in this video. Let's see. Just because we're almost done, we might as well.
Americans. Now, if
might
you're
as well
talking about
finish it.
hiring a $60, $70, $80,000 teacher for one student, yes, that is privilege. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm going to pay for the bill of this, and we're just going to invite 3 or 4 families who can't afford it to hang out in our backyard until hopefully we solve this pandemic. So I don't know. I did the numbers, and it seems to me teachers are highly underpaid in this country. The average salary seems to be $45,000 to $70,000.
Yeah, we all know this.
And if you put 5 to
Oops.
New York, who told me they're using their old office space since nobody's allowed.
Yeah.
And you still have the teacher doing the distance learning.
Yeah.
They just did on Zoom and actually put them to work. So I think before we're cutting each other down because we're trying to come up with creative solutions, and it's one of the problems with Twitter is anytime anybody comes up with a creative solution or an entrepreneurial solution in this country right now, we feel the need to destroy them. We need more entrepreneurial solutions.
That's what Twitter does.
Destroy people, yes.
Jason,
exactly.
next time bring a point.
Crazy.
Next time bring a point of view, okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just, this pandemic has got me on tilt.
What you mean? He brought the point of view.
That I'm so upset right now, but we have to solve this pandemic. Please wear a mask. Please do not go to bars, young people. Just for a month. We're all
walking.
Yeah, so that's it. So yeah, very interesting video, very interesting ideas there. I hope somebody sees this and like, hey, yeah, you might have a point there, Elijah. If not, make another video. We can have a conversation. I don't mind. There's a lot of things I'm learning, a lot of things I'm thinking, and I just think we need to get into the habit of communicating more, especially in these long form habits, because you can go through a whole set of ideas, right? That's why Jason likes doing podcasts, because you can share. It's easier to share a more nuanced idea than these sound bites that you have on the news or on Twitter or something like that. So yeah, I hope you watch through and gain some insight, or maybe you have something to say and you'll say it. So say in the comments or in another video, another podcast. I might release this as a podcast. I think that's a good idea. But anyways, thanks again for watching. And if you did stick all the way to now, for some reason, somehow, check out my other episodes. I do Becoming a Techno Wizard series, where I'm learning how to become a designer, a UX designer. And I've been doing, you might see I have like almost 50 videos on that. So yeah, just check me out and have a good day. Bye-bye.